Good evening, everyone. My name is Craig Palmer, the author of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating book. Um, so I'm going to be flying solo tonight. My partner is indisposed, so the show must go on. So anyway, we got some emails from some viewers last week asking about how to, and we kind of touched on it last week about how to be successful in 2006, and does online dating work, right? So I'm here to tell you online dating does work. And if you're interested, for those watching on TikTok, feel free to pick up the copy of The Good, the Bad, the Odd online dating book. It's on my page. You'll see the link, or you can just cash at me, Craig Palmer, and I'll send you and just put your address and I'll mail it to you. It's cheaper if you cash app it. It's more expensive, obviously, if you go to the website, because then you're paying additionally for shipping. If you cash app it, then I don't charge people additionally for shipping, but you know, you have to decide. So anyway, how to be successful in 2026, right? And then I'll also touch on some of the questions that I received via email. So if you have any questions via email, any suggestions, feel free to email me at craigpalmer25 at gmail.com, right? So if you have any questions about dating, online dating, I will be more than happy to answer your questions and bring them up on the show, because obviously, if you have questions about dating, then stands to reason other people are going to have questions about it as well, right? So, and definitely follow. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can also watch the show every Wednesday at 9 on YouTube at The Good, the Bad, the Odd online dating podcast on YouTube. So if you're watching it from YouTube, make certain you subscribe and like and all that good stuff. You know how to get down, right? So anyway, how do we make 2026 successful? Well, the first thing is you have to kind of decide. You have to have a plan, right? And so I think that the women that are serious about finding love, and there are a lot of women out there that are serious about finding love, right? So those women that are serious about finding love, I think they're more committed, right? To be very honest with you, I think they're more committed because they're intentional, and they say in their profiles, dating intentionally and all sorts of kind of stuff. But I think they're more intentional about um, going online consistently, right? Taking the initiative, right? Because, and this is just coming from someone, I'm from New York. So, um, I was born and raised in New York. And as a New Yorker, um, transplanted here in the South, we as New Yorkers, guys, we love aggressiveness. We love a woman that kind of is, kind of lets you know that she's interested and she initiate things. It's very sexy, right? And I think a lot of the women in the South don't initiate a lot of things. Like they try to wait for the guy to do everything, right? To initiate things. And, I think guys have gotten exhausted. Like, I can just tell you, like, in the early stages of dating previously, I used to initiate everything. And I don't think I initiate things as much as I used to in the past, right? I think I kind of wait a little bit more to see if there's genuine interest from the woman. Because, when you initiate a lot of things early on, and then, you get kind of like a lukewarm response, then you don't, and it falls apart, then you feel like you almost wasted time. So I kind of feel like I don't initiate things as I used to in the past as much, right? And I think that allows me to see if there's some genuine interest, right? Now, of course, it should be mutual, right? Um, I think it's important that, let the guy, also suggest things as well, right? Now, keep in mind, there are some guys out there that don't know how to. Uh, yes, Ming, I'm Shane's dad. All right. So there are instances where, you know, you don't, I'm sorry, I got distracted by Ming. Right. So there are instances where there's no interest, right, from the party. But you should know that if the person initiates things and they're spending time with you, let me just add one other thing. Let me just add this one moment because this is really funny. Right. There's a natural progression to relationships, right? And you have to let relationships play out, right? I don't think sometimes women let relationships play out, right? I think sometimes they're so anxious to want the relationship to develop, like they don't give it time, right? Like, and I think maybe older women are looking for, that relationship to develop more quickly, right? And the only way relationships develop very quickly, and this is just coming from the old days, right? In the old days, if you spent a lot of time with someone, like the relationship developed so quickly. But now that we're older, our time is so precious. You can't spend, a lot of time with the folks the way we used to in the old days, right? Like I could tell you, I remember one relationship I had many years ago, and I'll tell you, like 1 month felt like 6 months, right? Because we spent so much time together. Now you're working, you have kids, you got kids in college, right? There are people that have two jobs and things like that. And so therefore, you don't have as much time. You might only have a weekend to spend with someone, right? Whereas in the old days, you might have spent 5 or 6 days with someone. If you spent 5 or 6 days with someone and you did that every day for a month, trust me when I tell you, it's gonna feel like 3 months because you're spending quality time with the person. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a place for um, FaceTime, right? Like me personally, if the woman is hesitant to do FaceTime, to me that's a red flag, right? Because I'm gonna wonder why doesn't this woman want to do FaceTime, right? Because there are women out there I don't like FaceTime. Well, FaceTime allows you to get a connection with someone, right? Um, Pretty quickly, right? And so, because of that reason, it's very, very important. And listen, I've seen a lot of profiles, and I'll tell you, the women that say FaceTime is a must, I completely understand and I totally agree with it, right? You should FaceTime with the person. And there's another reason why you want to FaceTime with the person because it allows you to kind of see what happens in the evening, right? Because I mean, I've heard horror stories where guys they're married to women and all sort of kind of stuff. If a person is married if you're FaceTiming them at 9, 10 o'clock at night, right? So I never could understand how a woman could date a guy and not know he's married, right? Like, how does that happen? So please explain it to me because if you're FaceTiming someone at 10 o'clock at night, if you're FaceTiming them, 1 o'clock on a Saturday, or, 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday, there's no way the person is married, right? If you're FaceTiming them at 8 a.m. on a Friday morning, how is the person married? How could the person be married, right? So these things are important. So very, very important. Um, so I would suggest, right? So in order to, for 2025, be very serious about have a list of what's important to you, right? I would say write down 10 things that are important to you, right? And stick to it. Stick to those 10 things that are important to you, right? Um, and then FaceTime the person, right? And like, don't be afraid to use WhatsApp. Don't be afraid to use Meet, Google Meet, and things like that. Because very, very important. Because you have to be able to look at the person. You have to be able to talk to the person, get to know them. And because we're not able to be right there with the person, unfortunately, FaceTime kind of works for you in that way. So definitely use FaceTime. And if the woman is hesitant to use FaceTime or the guy is hesitant to use FaceTime, you have to question why. I'll be honest with you, I have to question why. Um, so that's one way to make 2026 successful. The other thing too is understanding that the stigma that used to be attached in the past about online dating, that stigma is long gone. Like, forget about it. Now is the time to find your partner, find your mate, right? And so, in fact, I was watching House Hunters on HGTV, right? And there was a couple that was who met online. Now they didn't say which site that they met on, but it's really, um, it's important that there are sites, and next week I'm going to discuss some of the sites. Um, we're going to discuss some of the sites next week that my co-host has found to be successful, and I think that is really, really good. Like one of the ones I'm a big advocate for is Plenty of Fish. I know some people don't like Plenty of Fish, but I like Plenty of Fish because there's one good way of making certain that the person you get a response, right? And so the way you get a response on Plenty of Fish is just see how active the people are on online, right? Because I think that sometimes we have a tendency to reach out to folks. We might see someone that we might find interesting or attractive or whatever the case is, and you might send them a message and they don't reach out to you. And the reason why is because the person, they may be like myself, who's not online that much, right? And so if you're not online that much and someone reaches out to you, you might miss someone trying to contact you, right? So if you're looking to connect with someone, have conversation with someone, and things like that, one of the best ways is to see how active they are online. And Plenty of Fish allows you to see that. Like they allow you to see, like you can see that the person was online today or yesterday. And so if you send them, a message, stands to reason they're going to see it because they're on pretty regularly. So that's to me, reach out to folks that you can see are active participants online, right? And the other thing too is um, make certain that and this goes out to women. I'm sorry, I have to say this to women. Please don't think the guy is going to do all the lifting, right? Like there's this woman's profile that I see all the time, right? And she's an attractive woman, right? But I think she suffers from the what I coin in my book, the Southern Belle mentality, right? And she expects the guy to do all the calling and reaching out and all that kind of stuff. Yo, and I don't think she's watching right now, but if she was, I would tell her like, yo, you need to initiate, right? Um, there are a lot of women out there that don't initiate. They feel like, and trust me when I tell you, they feel like the guy should do all the heavy lifting. They should call, they should, all that kind of stuff. And you know what? That's Listen, you're gonna lose good guys because of that. If you don't take the initiative, all right? I'm sorry. So, you know what? If you want to be successful in 2026, listen, you're going to have to reach out to the guy. Let him know, hey, listen, how are you? What's going on? What you been up to? And I could just tell you, you can make a guy's day, right? If you reach out to him, because it seems like so few women do it, right? And so I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, once again, let me just remind you, pick up the book, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Book. It's in the description, so feel free to pick it up. Or you can also cash at me, Craig Palmer, and the book is 17.95. And if you cash at me, I will sign it and mail it to you. Signed and mailed a bunch. Or you can go to the website. The website is in my description. You can go to lulu.com and buy the book there. LULU.com and purchase the book there. Um, it's 17.95. That includes shipping, right? Uh, all right. So now, like, yes, but Lulu, yep, LULU.com. And you can pick up the book. If you put in the title, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Book, you'll see it pop up, right? So, some of the questions that I got from some viewers last week was, how quickly should you meet the person after you've spoken, right? So, and these are obviously suggestions, right? Now, I've learned while I've been online dating. This let me tell you what I've learned, right? I would not meet anyone that I didn't have a conversation with online, like over the phone with. Like I would highly suggest you video chat um, someone prior to meeting them, right? Because I could tell you, um, I video chatted a couple of women that, um, and after talking to them, I wasn't attracted to them. Conversation was okay, but I wasn't attracted to them romantically. And so that kind of eliminates, potentially meeting them and then, not finding them attractive. So I would suggest, I'm a big supporter of good evening, right? I'm a big proponent of video chatting a person, make certain that there's some chemistry there. Um, and of course, meet the person someplace, with people around. Listen, there are criminals everywhere, right? And there are people out there that don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. So, obviously, and these are things that I'm mentioning, but I'm sure these are things that women know, which is let people know if you're going on a date with someone, let them know who you're meeting with, where you're meeting at, what time, things like that. At least one person, share your location with someone, right? So that people know these are all, security things that you should do, particularly women too, because there's this, I read this woman's profile once, and she kept it real. She said she just doesn't want to end up on Dateline, right? So you don't want to be someone that ends up on Dateline. You do want to be someone that finds love. So in order to ensure that you're safe and things like that, yeah, share your location with someone. Don't leave your drink. Because listen, and I like to think the best of people as well. But I see women go to the bathroom and leave a drink on the table, and come back, and you know like I said, we expect the best from guys and stuff like that. But my co-host said that she was actually drugged once when she went on a date. So, and listen, there are guys that will do things like that, unfortunately. So, I would tell you, like, yo, don't leave your drink unattended, even with, especially with some guy that you just met, right? And even guys, listen, there was a story, a guy in Florida, he showed up to meet some woman, and he got robbed. um, so I was like, it happened to guys as well. So you've got to be careful. Guys should share their location with, someone you trust. Don't be so quick to, if the woman says, "Hey, you want to come to my house and this and that," don't be so quick to do so. Talk to her for a while before you decide that you want to potentially go with her somewhere and stuff like that. Because there's unscrupulous women out there as well. And that's just, that's real talk, to the guys. That's real talk to the women as well. So now, some of the other questions. So, how quickly should you meet the person? Well, let me just say, I'm a big proponent of meeting someone quickly, right? And I don't think I'm the only one that loses interest pretty quickly, right? Like the conversation has to be on point, right? If you're dealing with someone and you lose interest, it's gonna fall by the wayside. I could just tell you. There was a young lady I was talking to, and conversation was pretty good and stuff like that. But what I found was it was very one-sided, right? And so I lost interest, because if it's not mutual, you have to accept that and recognize that, right? Because I'm not a big believer in anyone banging their head against the wall, right? So if the person, and listen, we have busy schedules, right? I also find that sometimes you have to recognize when a woman has a busy schedule, right? You have to recognize when a guy has a busy schedule, right? Like, sometimes if a woman has like two kids, right? And she's running around with the kids all the time and stuff like that, she has a busy schedule. And somehow, if she doesn't make you a priority as a guy, you have to recognize that, you're just not a priority. And may not be the right time for a relationship because, she has a lot on her plate. Just like myself, I have two sons, I'm running around with them often and stuff like that. And so, I'm sure that there are women out there that say, "Oh man, his schedule is just too busy, and he don't have no time, this and that." And so, and I ain't mad at them. That's just part of it. But you also got to remember that that may not always be the case. Like sometimes you can double back, right? Like there are, like you're gonna come across people online. And you know what's so crazy? You may come across them a second and even a third time. And it might not have been the right time at that time, but it might be the right time, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, right? Because maybe that person's schedule was busy. Maybe they had a lot going on. Maybe they were still recovering from a relationship. These things happen, right? So don't be afraid to double back, right? I would say revisit potentially people that you might have overlooked in the past. That's my suggestion for another suggestion for 2026 because um, we all need companionship. We all need love, right? And sometimes that's hard to acquire. And I think sometimes it's even harder for women because women are natural nurturers and things like that. And you need that. You need someone to be able to rub your back and rub your neck and tell you it's going to be okay and get a hug and a kiss sometimes, right? And guys need that as well. I kind of think women probably need it more, right? But that's not to say guys don't like it, but I think women probably need it more. So anyway, I would suggest you meet the person quickly, right? After you've spoken to them for about a week or two, I'm going to say 2 weeks. I would say you really want to kind of meet the person in a month. I wouldn't try to go more than a month without meeting the person, meeting them, halfway, meeting them at a restaurant, or even if you want to just do a meet and greet, where, and there's some women that are big against meet and greets. I'm not really sure why. Meet and greets are very important, right? Because, you don't want to invest an hour or two with someone that you're not interested in. So a meet and greet is great to do to get to know the person because what you might find is that they're really cool people, but you don't have that same connection, right? When you meet face to face, and so you need to figure that out because pretty quickly, because what happens is if you're talking to a person for 2 and 3 months and you haven't met them face to face, if you're talking to the person 2 or 3 months, you might feel like, oh my God, this person is amazing. The conversation might be great. They're attractive and all that kind of stuff. And then you meet them and you don't have the same connection, right? Maybe the two of you don't have the same chemistry. Maybe the person is a little shy, right? Like you want to kind of get those things out the way early on because time is precious, and it's even more precious. Oh, you know what? I got the microphone all the way over here. I don't even know if people online can hear me but let me move my microphone a little closer. All right, hold on a second. I'm just all right. So I'm sorry about that. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, good. So my apologies with the microphone. But anyway, back to the facts at hand. So very, very important to meet people early on. Don't go a prolonged period of time without meeting someone. And to be very honest with you, if you're kind of dating someone, um, and once you feel comfortable with them, my suggestion is to take a little weekend getaway with them, right? And that's, of course, when you feel comfortable with them. I'm not telling you to do it on the first date, right? But because you learn so much when you go away with someone. I could tell you, going away with someone can make or break a relationship very, very quickly, right? Because you get a chance to kind of see how they operate. There are no distractions, right? Like no work distractions, things like that. I'm telling you, go away with someone, and you're going to know if this person is ideally suited for you. And it sounds crazy, but it is so, 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 so true, right? So Those folks watching on YouTube, please remember to subscribe, like, and all other kind of stuff. Don't forget about that stuff. Right. Um, so now, a couple of the other questions that we came across, right? And it's funny because there was, I don't know if you guys saw this scenario, right? There was this scenario where this guy took this woman on a date. Now, now she came on the date with her kids. Now, I'm not really certain why a woman who's looking to find love would go on a date with her kids um to meet a guy. Like, that's to me a red flag right off the bat. Like, you shouldn't be going on no date with your kids, right? But anyway, the guy went on a date with the kids, and bill came up to a crazy amount of money, right? And he left, and he just paid his portion and left. You know what? This is why meet and greets are so important, right? Because before you invest, a lot of money in someone, you want to make certain that you're really interested in that person, right? We're going to make certain that you really enjoy spending time with the person. So my suggestion would be to do a meet and greet, right? And you'll know if there's a vibe there, right? You'll know if there's interest. I know for me, if I'm going to do a meet and greet and you don't hear from me the next day, I'm probably not interested. And if I don't hear from the woman, I'm sure she's probably not interested. So it's important, you before you invest time, energy, money, all that kind of stuff with someone, make certain that the person, you're both on the same page in terms of, whether you really like the person, if the person really likes you. And that's why I'm a big advocate of doing meet and greets, right? Because you'll know, right? You'll, in some cases, you'll be talking to the person after you leave. You'll be talking to the person and say, "Hey, I really enjoyed meeting you, talking to you, this and that. I look forward to seeing you soon." Like, you want to get that high sign, right? So very, very important. And for those folks watching on Facebook Live as well, just shout out to Facebook, right? Make certain you like, subscribe for those folks who are watching on YouTube. Also, those folks, feel free to pick up the book, 1795, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating book, right? And one of the reasons why I wrote the book was because, and it's so funny, there's so many things that you see online that, quite honestly, you're clueless about, right? Now, when you're on TikTok, it's so funny because, I'm not on TikTok that much, to be very honest with you. But what I find is, like, they have these folks that have like these chats. I'm gonna call them like chats, or they're trying to do matchmaking, right? And it's really like I'll pop into a couple of them and really just watch, right? And I wonder if these things ever really work, right? Because last night I popped into one and I was looking at it, and the guy is asking her questions, like, what do you do? And there's like a whole panel of people listening and stuff. And the guy is trying to, generate conversation with the woman, and you could tell the woman is being a little bit private, right? Because obviously she's not on this panel by herself. There's a bunch of people on the panel as well listening to all her business, right? So that's why I'm a big advocate of online dating. Online dating is one on one. You don't have to worry about, all these other people listening to what you're discussing, right? So I mean, those panels on TikTok and stuff like that, I find them just to be entertaining, right? Me personally, I don't think they really work, and not only that, but just listening to some of these panels, right? These guys that are calling from like Africa and like different countries and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if these guys are getting, coming on these panels because they're trying to get here to the U.S., right? And they're trying to get a green card or what have you. Because that's what the host said. The host was like, "What are you trying to do? Get a green card?" Telling the guy, because I can't tell you how many guys are, tuning in from Africa, right? It seemed like there was like nobody on there from the U.S. Like very few guys. Like every time a guy popped up, he was like from Africa, right? So I don't know. I'm going on the assumption there are women in Africa. So the host said, what are you trying to do? Get a green card? It was hilarious. So I don't know. Um, I think, and for guys who are looking to meet women, listen, I would tell you, like as crazy as it sounds, there's if for guys who are trying to meet women, listen, don't be afraid to go to the nail salon, right? I went to the nail salon about 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and I went to get my feet done because my feet be looking rough sometimes, right? And I'm telling you, there was so many women at the nail. Of course, it's a nail salon, and you're like, wow. So I'm saying, like the guys, you trying to meet women, go to the nail salon, right? You get your pick, right? For women, you're trying to meet guys, and I'm sure women have heard this, right? Sporting events, right? Guys love sports. Women that take the time to learn about sports and things like that. I could just tell you, you're going to probably be very successful in meeting someone because a real guy, a real dude loves sports. And he loves a woman that enjoys sports, right? In the South, you have women that are really big into like college football, right? And things like that, right? Like they're big on like the Georgia Bulldogs and Alabama and things like that. Like, yo, familiarize yourself with sports, particularly football and basketball. I know some women don't like baseball because they think of it as being kind of slow. I know I'm a big baseball fan, right? But familiarize yourself with sports. Get to know the sports. Get to know the lingo. Touchdowns, passes, free throws and defense. Like just familiarize yourself. That's one way of being successful in 2026, right? So like that's your homework, right? Get to know some of the sports. Um, and I think some women listen. I don't want um, I don't think any woman should be desperate because I really feel like there are a lot of guys, viable guys here in the U.S., right? But if you have to meet someone, in another country, but you got to understand something about meeting people from other countries as well, right? And the guys in other countries, they look at things sometimes a little differently than we do than guys here in the U.S., right? Like for instance, I would never want to have multiple wives, right? And in Africa, guys can have multiple wives, right? And they expect women to be very obedient, right? Here in the U.S., as men, I think we don't expect a woman to be obedient. We do like a woman that caters to us. But then, and I've always said this, and I've said this in the book, men and women cater to each other differently, right? And so, like, if you have a man, right, like, I could just tell you, he's going to make certain that your car is taken care of, right? Like, he's going to go and get your car washed. That's how a man caters to a woman, right? A woman caters to a man by saying, "Hey, babe, let me make you a plate," right? The man caters to a woman by making certain that she's safe, like she's walking on the inside, uh, in the street. A woman caters to a man by, um, you know, buying him a pack of socks, right? Babe, I saw you needed some socks. I picked you up a pack of socks, right? Like, so men and women cater to each other differently. So we have to be mindful of that, right? Um, don't be afraid. And listen, I have a friend that I'm really cool with, and what I've learned is that women, and when be very clear, I don't mean this to be absolute because this applies to men and women, right? But I say women because obviously I'm male, right? Um, we have scars, right? And I think sometimes when women have scars, men have scars too, but I'm not talking about men right now. We're talking about women who have scars, right? I think they go into relationships fearful, right? Like they don't want to get hurt, right? Listen, Whitney Houston said it best. Love is a contact sport, right? And so you can't be fearful of heartbreak. That's part of the game, right? Like you're going to meet some people and it don't work out, and your heart. Um, I don't even like to use the word heartbreak, right? Because I'm going to call it heart injured, right? Because you can't really, your heart can't break. Now, your heart can get injured, like you might like someone, and let's just say it didn't work out. You found out like I've heard situations where a guy was dating a woman for a year, and out of nowhere, he breaks up with her and marries someone else. Things like that happen, right? And was the woman hurt? Of course she was hurt. You dated a guy for a year. You thought I'm gonna go on the assumption she thought this was it, like this is gonna work out, and it didn't work out. Okay, it's not the end of the world. You got to get back up on that horse. Same thing with guys. Because I have a relative who broke up with a young lady, and he was very hurt, right? And he calls me up, and he's like, I'm not gonna say which relative, but he was very hurt by breaking up with his girlfriend, and I had to tell him like, yo, you caused that because he didn't acknowledge her. He didn't let her know he really cared about her, and you know what? He also one of the things that he didn't do, because you can't be afraid to tell a person, excuse me, I miss you. You don't lose nothing by saying I'm thinking about you. I miss you. That's something he would never tell her. He was like, "Oh, that's being soft." That's not being soft. That's kind of letting the woman know that you're into her. I miss you. I'm thinking about you. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So I would highly suggest. Listen, if you're dating someone, let them know I like you, right? Now, are you looking to go down the aisle tomorrow? No, right? But it's nothing wrong with telling the person, I'm digging you. I'm feeling you. I like you. Let's see where things go. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm a high, nothing wrong with that. And for women, don't be afraid to tell a guy, like, yo, I like you, you know? Um, and, what's also funny too is don't be afraid to say, I love you first. And don't take offense to it if the guy doesn't say I love you back, right? Be you. If you really like the guy, and you feel like, yo, and I'm not saying say you love the guy after a day, but if you're spending time with the person and you feel like, yo, I'm feeling like I love you, say so. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Now, if the person doesn't say it back, don't, don't look at it negatively, right? That's not a negative. You're being genuine. If you're being genuine and you say you feel like, yo, I feel like I love this person, there's nothing wrong with saying it, right? And, if you're all that in a bag of chips, trust me when I tell you, he's going to say, I love you at some point. Maybe it's not as quick as you might have said it, but the one thing that you can hang your hat on is that when he does say it, he loves you, it's genuine, right? Because you didn't hear it. Because trust me when I tell you, there are guys that will say, I love you in the first week, right? And that's because they know women like to hear, I love you, right? And so, they're going to get a lot further along if they say, I love you, right? Me personally, I don't think love should be misused. You don't tell someone you love them unless you genuinely love them, right? Because love is a very powerful word, right? And if you misuse it, and you tell someone you love them and you don't love them, that's the type of stuff that will get your car keyed, it'll get your tires flattened. It could, just have like some very bad outcomes, and you don't want that to happen. So, if you're going to say you love, be genuine. It's okay. And don't be fearful. Just understand, like, eventually, if the person is really into you, they're going to tell you, and don't be afraid of that. Right. So anyway, just a reminder, um, pick up my book. It's in the description. The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Book. These are some of the things that I discuss. I talk about the state of online dating, right? Because once again, as I mentioned earlier, online dating used to have this stigma. And there was a time that people would, you wouldn't dream of telling someone you met someone online. Now, of course, you don't care. You tell people, listen, I met this dude online. I met this chick online. There's nothing wrong with that. People do it all the time now. In fact, one of my good friends just got married recently to someone he met online. A friend of mine, he met his girlfriend online. Like, it's commonplace now, especially if you're busy, like if you work from home, or, maybe you work in an industry where you don't want to necessarily date someone you work with. If you work at a hospital, do you really want to date a nurse at your hospital? Do you want to date a doctor at your hospital? I mean, I'm sure there's some women out there that say, of course they want to date a doctor, right? But if it doesn't work out, right, then it's touchy. Like, I was watching a TV show, and I'm dating myself probably here, but I was watching NYPD Blue, right? And two of the detectives slept with each other and they were dating, right? And then it fell apart for whatever reason. And the guy tells her, sorry, it didn't work out, whatever. And they had to work together. And it was, there was a lot of tension. And this was a TV show, obviously, but that happens in real life. I had a client that I had got a job working at McDonald's, and he calls me about 6 months later. He's like, Mr. Palm, I need you to help me find a job. And I'm thinking, well, what happened to the damn job I just got you? Right? He was like, I got fired. Why did he get fired? He got fired because he was dating his boss, the manager at McDonald's. And he ended up moving in with her. And then when things went south, not only did he get kicked out of the apartment, he lost his job, right? So you want to kind of be careful about dating people you work with, right? It sounds great and it makes sense initially because remember, we spend a lot of, if you're in the office on a daily basis and you're around someone, of course, you might get to like them and what have you. So if there's someone that you meet at the office, right, and you're really liking them and stuff like that, I'll just keep it real with you. You might have to, because this happened to me. Listen, I'm speaking from experience. Most of the things that I say to you, I know someone it's happened to, or it's happened to myself. So in this particular instance, I dated someone I worked with, right? And the first thing I knew was I had to change jobs because she was very jealous, right? And if she saw me talking to other women on the job, she would get jealous and really have like a screw face. So I ended up having to change jobs, which was a good move for me because I really enjoyed the job that I ended up getting. But I'm just saying, like, if you decide to date someone you work with, understand there will come a point where you're going to need to probably change jobs, especially if the person is your supervisor, right? Because if things don't work out, because one of the things that happens too, if you're living with someone, you're working with someone, you're living with someone, sometimes you could be around someone too much, right? Like you might need that space, that buffer, right? So that way you can come home and talk about what happened during your day, right? If you're working with someone, you're living with someone, you're around them too much, right? Like you should almost have that buffer, right? Now it's different if you have like your own business with the person, right? Let's say you're working with your spouse or your girlfriend and y'all started a business together. That's something different, right? But in a situation like that, you still both need to have an instance where you have time apart, right? Because if you're around someone all the time, you do get to that point sometimes where you're like, oh my God, like when can I get away from this person, right? So because of that reason, if you have a business with someone, you know, for guys, go hang out with the fellas. Go to a baseball game, a basketball game, go chill with the fellas, and when you come back home, you'll be excited to see your partner. For ladies, go get your nails done with your girlfriends. Go get your hair braided with your girlfriends, and go hang out with your sorority sisters and things like that. Things that women do. So that way, when you do get back to your partner, you're excited and you can't wait to see them, right? So some of the things we talked about to be successful in 2026, right? Make a list of things that you're looking for in your partner. Next week, we're going to talk about some of the websites that are really good and have been successful. I know some people look frown upon Facebook dating, right? I'm a believer Facebook dating is a good thing, right? And there's a reason why I like Facebook dating, right? The reason why Facebook dating to me is good is because at this point, who the hell doesn't have Facebook at this point, right? Like, I think my grandmother and my sister are probably the only two people that my uncle, who's a Jehovah Witness minister, has a Facebook. I'm like, what? He don't have no picture on it or nothing like that, and he's never posted anything on it. But at least he has a Facebook, right? So my point is, everybody almost has Facebook at this point. So I'm a big advocate of Facebook dating. Obviously, another thing to do in 2026, read the profiles. You know, like, like I could just tell you. I think in my profile, I haven't looked at my profile in a while, but I know in my profile, the woman that's ideally suited for me. Let me just tell you, one, she probably plays spades, right? Because I love a woman that's competitive. So a woman that plays spades is probably a good match for me. Someone who likes sports is probably going to be a good match for me. Someone who loves Seinfeld. You love Seinfeld like I do, we're a good match, right? Um, who loves a good movie, right? If you like a good movie, like I love a good movie, that's probably a good match. So you want to kind of write down, know what you like to do, and try to match that with someone online, right? Because that'll let you know if, like, everybody says, I love to travel, right? I love to travel. Of course, the person that I'm going to be involved with has to like to travel as well. Because I met one woman online who didn't have a passport, which is fine. You can always get a passport. But she also said she doesn't like to fly, right? You don't like to fly, we're not a match, right? Trust me when I tell you, there are guys that don't like to fly, there are women like to fly. That's a match, right? So that's something that you should put in your profile. I don't like to fly. When you meet that dude that says he doesn't like to fly, that might be a match, right? What do you like to watch? I personally don't watch Love and Hip Hop, right? I don't find nothing interesting about it. But there are people out there who love to watch Love and Hip Hop. So if you like to watch Love and Hip Hop and he likes to watch Love and Hip Hop, there's a bond, there's a connection right there. So my point is, like, write a list of things that you both have in common. Because a lot of little things, if you have a lot of little things in common, you're going to find that that match. Like you're going to say to yourself, you know what, this person is good for me, right? Because you both can bond over watching Love and Hip Hop. You both can bond over playing spades. You both can bond over watching a movie, right? You both can bond if you like the same meal, right? Like I'm a big steak person. Someone who loves a good steak, we can go hang out. We can go have a good steak, right? So I'm just saying, like, you want to make certain that you have a lot of those little things in place, right? So just a reminder for those people watching on Facebook, on TikTok, right? Of course, those folks watching on YouTube, like, subscribe on YouTube. For those folks watching on TikTok, definitely if you want to participate and have comments, definitely go to YouTube. Watch us every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Once again, don't be afraid to pick up your copy of your book, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Book, right? Because I talk about things to be mindful of being safe. I talk about how to set up a profile, what should be in a profile, right? And also think about it from this perspective. Um, what not to put in profiles. Like one of the things that I see in profiles that I wouldn't suggest people put in there, don't have a lot of deal breakers, right? Like kind of keep some of those deal breakers out of your profile. And what you do is by keeping those, by keeping some of those deal breakers out of your profile, that allows you at least an opportunity to talk to someone and see if there's a match. If you put a lot of deal breakers in the profile, some people take it the wrong way. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm not a big fan of nose rings, right? Now, are nose rings a deal breaker? No, they're not a deal breaker, right? As long as it's tasteful, is my opinion, right? Like I don't care for the nose rings where the women have it right here in their nostrils. That's a no for me, right? But there are guys out there that don't care. And so one time this woman reached out to me and she got offended because I said I didn't like nose rings. So I took that out of my profile, right? Because she took it negatively and that wasn't the case, right? Like nose rings, it depends on what type of nose ring it is. Like I said, I don't take care for the ones that come right here, like they look like an ox or what have you. Like right here, oxes wear nose rings there. I don't know, right? But the ones that are little studs on the nose, that's not a big deal, right? So I took that out of my profile, right? So I took out a lot of don'ts in my profile. The only two that I left really is definitely no smokers, right? Because that's a no for me. That's a deal breaker for me, right? And so there are people out there that smokers are deal breakers. Let the person know, like no smoking. Because listen, there are plenty, especially nowadays. I'm shocked. Like, there are a lot of women. I think maybe, I don't know if it's because of stress or what it is. A lot of women are smokers, right? And I'm like, yo, you do know this will catch up with you eventually. Not today, not tomorrow, but 2, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, it will adversely affect your health. So, these are things you have to be mindful of. And I know that people, my aunt, she smoked for 20 years, nothing ever happened. Wonderful. Your aunt was lucky. There's a reason why they say smoking, may cause cancer because it probably will if you continue to do it. So for me, smokers are a deal breaker, right? But anyway, I want to thank everyone who watched the Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating podcast, right? Feel free to watch us every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on YouTube or on Facebook. I guess if I don't know if you have to be my Facebook friend to actually access the podcast on my Facebook page. Maybe not, I'm not really certain, but anyway. So, and then definitely pick up the book. If you go to TikTok, go into um, my face on my page, you'll see the the way to access it, to purchase the book on lulu.com, or you can cash at me, and I'll even put the cash app on screen, right? So that way you know how to purchase the book, right? So you can actually purchase the book by going to Cash App and just put your address, and I will ship it to you. It's 17.95. 17.95. Someone put 17.95. Yeah, 17.95, but that includes shipping. So I would tell you that's not too bad because that includes shipping, right? If you go online, it's going to be more because you pay 17.95 plus shipping. You Cash App it, it's 17.95, and it includes shipping. So see how that works, right? So anyway, we'll be back next Wednesday at 9. Hopefully, my co-host will be joining me, but if she doesn't, we will be flying by ourselves. And if you're interested in joining the show, you want to join the show, you have questions on the show, you want to come on live, send me your email address. You can email me at craigpalmer25@gmail.com, and I'll put that on the screen just so that you can see it. Because I know that sometimes I do get questions from folks. Some people don't want to come on live sometimes, but there's sometimes people do. So I will send you if you send me an email, I will send you the link, and you can come actually on the show, right? So we will have some guests on the show upcoming in the future because there are a couple of people that said they want to come on. So I want to thank everybody who joined, everybody who purchased the book. Thank you so much for your support. So thank you for listening. My name is Craig Palmer, the author of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Podcast, right? And we will see you next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Have a great night, everyone. Good night, TikTok. So yeah, we just let TikTok go. Let me say good night to everyone watching on YouTube. Thank you for watching, participating, right? Subscribing, liking. I appreciate the support. And we will be back. We'll talk next week about some online dating apps and websites to go to. Have a good night, everyone. Be safe.